Hello. Thank you everyone for joining me for my presentation about growing older, insights and reflections. I chose to interview Sandra because of my connection to her granddaughter Leah. She's one of my best friends, and she speaks highly of her grandmother. Through Leah, I learned just how remarkable Sandra is, not just as a grandmother, but as a woman who lived a full and impactful life. Her career as a trauma nurse stood out to me. That kind of work demands strength, compassion, and resilience. And I was curious to hear how those experiences shaped her, especially as she transitioned to retirement. Sandra was born September 20th, 1958 in Louisville, Ohio. She shared stories about her love for nursing, which led to a fulfilling career in trauma care. She has one brother and one sister. Her brother is actually adopted. She has four grandchildren and a dog named Bruno. And she got her bachelor's in nursing from Ohio University. And she's a retired nurse from Summa Health. And she worked in the trauma department. While continuing our interview, I asked Sandra about her personal history and views on aging. One of her most memorable moments is when she got married. She says that they met in her early 20s while she was still in nursing school and he was working in construction. She says he calmed her demeanor and balanced her out, especially during the stressful years of school. They got married in 1980. She also stated that marriage wasn't always easy. They faced challenges, including job changes, raising kids, financial struggles, but they always seemed to tackle through these issues together. She says that he was her partner in every sense of the word. Even now that since he's passed away, she finds herself often thinking about how he would handle certain situations, and she wishes that she could still share a memory with him. And then I asked her how she defines old. She says she defines old not as a number, but as a mindset. To her, old is when you stop learning, connecting, or growing. To me, the word old means experience. It means I have lived through things, learned lessons, and I used to think being old started at 60. I think old is more of a mindset than a number. For me, old is when you stop growing, caring, or connecting, and I'm not there yet. And then we talked about the best years and worst years of her life. She considers her college years the best time of her life. She was full of independence and friendships, and the best part of her current age is have have a perspective and peace. The hardest part is facing physical challenges and the fear of illness. When she was younger, she was worried and centered on her work and parenting. Now her focus is on health, time, and preparing for the future. I then asked Sandra about her attitude towards aging. Sandra says she respects older adults, especially since she has become one herself. She believes older people are often stronger than many realize, she says. Yes, she does feel that she is treated differently. I've noticed that people can talk down to you or assume that you don't understand certain things or make big decisions. There's a kind of an automatic assumption that because I'm older, I must be forgetful or fragile, and that's just not true. She also says that her grandkids keep her up to date. At the same time, she says I find that I get more respect in other areas. My children and even my grandchildren ask me for my advice, and they seem to value my opinion. While she worked in healthcare, she noticed that older patients are often dismissed or not listened to, and she saw that a lot during her nursing career. And she says, yes, age changes how we are seen for better and for worse. As I continued the interview with Sandra, I asked her about her day-to-day life and use of time. She says her days begin early with a homemade breakfast, usually eggs, toast, fruit, and tea or coffee. She loves gardening with her granddaughter Leah, and they're currently planting cherries, strawberries, and vegetables together. If she's not gardening, she is walking her dog Bruno, which helps her stay active. Her afternoons are quieter, often filled with reading, watching TV, or visiting family. She also volunteers at her church and enjoys lunch with her friends. And then we talked about her leisure activities then and now. She says earlier in life she barely had time for leisure. Between nursing and raising children, her moments of rest were rare. Now she embraces a slower pace and finds joy in spending time with her grandchildren. Spending time with her grandchildren, attending church events, reading, walking, and connecting with others. She sees leisure as a gift of retirement. We then talked about her retirement experience. Sandra says retirement brought both satisfaction and adjustment. Nursing was central to her identity, so retiring meant redefining herself. She's grateful she prepared financially through a retirement plan and mentally through faith and family support. She does sometimes miss the structure and sense of purpose work gave her, but she feels peaceful calling her retirement God's timing. And then in terms of preparation, she is grateful that she started thinking about retirement early. Financially, she contributed steadily to her retirement plan through work, and she worked with a financial advisor to make sure she was comfortable. She sometimes misses work. She misses the patience to coworkers and the sense of making a difference every day, but she does not miss the long shifts or stress. She said it feels like it was God timing to retire at this age, and she feels happy about it. Sandra and I also talked about the relationship with younger generations and the meaningful of a later life. Sandra says she sees clear differences between generations, especially in how connected young people are to technology. She feels her generation was more present in the moment. However, she admires the younger generation's openness, especially around mental health and social justice. And what connects generations, she believes, is that they need to feel valued and heard. And then when we got into the topic of a meaningful later life, Sandra says her family gives her the most meaning, particularly her grandchildren. Sharing stories and time with them is priceless. And her advice on growing older is don't wait to enjoy life. Care for your body, protect your peace, and don't be afraid to rest or let go of what no longer serves you. Lastly, to end my interview with Sandra, I asked her 3 course-related questions. Well, the first one was has she noticed any changes in her memory or thinking or decision making as she got older? And she said, yes, I have noticed little changes here and there, but nothing major. She says she can be forgetful sometimes, and when she walks in a room and she forgets what she goes in there for, but she writes things down to remember them. She said she used to be able to multitask like a machine, but since losing her husband a few years ago, it changed the way she thinks more than the age ever did. It made her introspective. She says, I don't take time for granted like I used to. I learned to slow down and pay attention to what I feel I need and who I want to spend time with. She also told me grief shifts your priorities. She's more mindful now in some ways, even though I forget small things. I feel more mentally present than when I was younger and constantly rushing. And then I asked her, how was your role in your family and community changed since you retired or became a grandparent? Do you feel more or less or equally valued in these roles? She says becoming a grandmother gave her a whole new role to love. It's completely different from being a mom. I feel like I get to be a support system, someone they can talk to, learn from, or just be with. Retirement was a big shift too. At first, I was worried I'd feel useless, but over time, I found new ways to feel valuable, like volunteering, helping with my daughter with the kids, or sharing my knowledge with others. Working within the church has also helped me feel valuable and needed. I enjoy being a helping hand to others. And my last question I asked her was, How would you describe your sense of identity now compared to when you were younger? Has retirement or aging changed the way you see yourself? She says her identity has evolved. When I was younger, I was a nurse, a wife, and a mom, and all those roles defined me. After I retired, especially after losing my husband, I had to figure out who I was and who I was outside of those things. It was painful but also freeing, and I had to get to know myself again. I also know as strong, even though I had to face some really hard things. I'm more reflective, and I still miss my husband every day, but I know he'd still be proud of the life I built since. This interview gave me a deeper appreciation for the complexity and richness of aging. Sandra's honesty about her joys, losses, and transitions reminded me that growing older is not about the decline, it's about the adaptation, wisdom, and connection. This project taught me that older adulthood is not the end of the story, but another chapter of full depth and meaning. Thank you guys for coming to my interview, and I hope you enjoyed.